going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Rufus back at it again. Another podcast. No Wednesday installment this week. School, vacation, a lot of stuff going on this week, and I'm going to be leading into. It's kind of at the point where it's slow news season 2. In complete fairness, there's a lot of stuff going on in NFL draft, but there's nothing crazy specific, especially with NFL picks. But yeah, NBA season, March Madness going to pick up. But, it's not a guaranteed 2 episodes every week. I'd like to think Wednesday and Saturday as much as I can. But, one a week shouldn't really shock anybody either. As long as I get one in. As long as I get one in, there's the promise I'll make. At least one a week. And then the clips from there. Hopefully everybody's enjoying the clips that I'm back posting. A couple of Quinlan this week. And then I'll continue to expand it through the rest of the podcast. Today we got Brandon Miller, we got Jalen Carter, we got some depth with these things too. Done my homework. Both Miller and Carter. Morant doing his thing. Dillon Brooks also in association of Morant because he made some comments on Draymond Green, which I just did not agree with. And some talk about spring training. I'm not going to get into the John Jones stuff. I don't know enough about MMA. But I am very excited to watch that event. I just wish I knew more about mixed martial arts and UFC to really in-depthly get into that. But I got a lot of legal things, man. A lot of legal news that just hasn't been sitting well with me. But anyways, we'll get into it. When March Madness is coming up, we're looking for some of the favorite teams. Alabama obviously up there. And one of the main reasons as to why Alabama's up there is Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is averaging 19.6 points per game, 8 rebounds, and about 2 assists. Shooting 43% from three. He's a 6'9" wing. He's got some length to him. Contender for National Player of the Year. Only a freshman. His stock has risen significantly since the start of the season. But obviously he's been involved in some controversy with firearms and murders and such. I mean, that event happened January 15th. But now we're hearing about his implications exactly in it. He's going to be the first if all checks out, even with all of this, he's still going to be the first college basketball player off the board when it comes time for the NBA draft. Great length versatility, take players off the dribble, hit long threes. He's the best freshman in college basketball and is probably the best player in college basketball, averaging almost 20 and 8. So, according to police testimony on January 15th, Darius Miles, then Miller's teammate, texted Miller asking him to bring Miles' gun to him. Then, according to police, after Miller arrived, Miles handed Davis the gun while the two were in the back seat of Miller's car. An argument with the person who was eventually murdered, the mother, I believe Jamia Harris, turned violent shortly after, and Davis is accused of shooting Harris, which Miles handing it to Davis. That's Michael Davis. Has since been charged with capital murder. Miles the same. You hand somebody a gun, you may as well just be pulling the trigger yourself. Miller, meanwhile, has not been charged with anything. Tuscaloosa Chief Assistant District Attorney Paula Whitley said there's nothing we could charge him with. Additionally, Alabama chose not to discipline Miller or Jaden Bradley, another basketball player on the roster. Miles always being a foreign player, who investigators say was also at the scene of the shooting. Oates was asked about the situation. That's head coach Nate Oates of Alabama. We knew about that. He said in reference to Miller's involvement in terms of the recent stuff that came to light. We can't control everything everybody does outside of practice. Nobody knew that was going to happen. College kids are out. Brandon hasn't been in any type of trouble, nor is he in any trouble in this case. Just the wrong spot, the wrong time. That's my understanding. Miles had left the gun in the backseat under some clothes. He said, hey, I need this, whatever. Miller brings it back to him because they were hanging out. And once he did, stuff popped off. Miller got out of there. Vehicle, I believe, was shot. And he cooperated the entire way through. Miller's attorney has insisted that his client had never touched the gun, was not involved in its exchange, and never knew that illegal activity involving the gun would occur. Like I said, I believe Miles either fell out or he put it back there and he said, hey, it's still there. Left something in the car. That happening to be a firearm. Miller brought it back to him. Like, it's not his. He's not just going to take the guy's firearm. Like, got to give it back to him. He didn't say, hey, I'm going to kill this person. Need the firearm. Like, obviously, it's a bad look. Bad position to put your friends into. If you're going to just go kill somebody, then it's just bad position overall. Like, just to go after, you know what I'm saying? You really put the guy's life at stake, and his career at stake at that point. You know, you make your own decision, go ahead. And it's just clouded Alabama. So, you know, when Bama went on to play South Carolina, it was the first game since police testimony had been reported, which is when we learned of all this information, right? This was, I believe, February 25th was the day where they took on South Carolina. Miller gets patted down in the pregame intro, which was a brutally awful look, like him getting patted down like he had, like, you know, the typical, like, handshake line thing that they do. Pat him down. Bad look. Like, stopping for us. Like, yeah, I'll show the clip. Anyways, amongst all of that, there was a tweet, I believe, from Barstool, Alabama, saying, hope he goes off for 40 tonight. He proceeded to like it. Which, again, kind of wild out there, considering the guy's kind of implicated in a murder. He's not, because he's not, there's no charges, but, like, obviously has some form of involvement in murder. You know, Miller proceeded to play after getting patted down the pregame warm-ups, jokingly, by his teammate, scoring a career-high 41 on 14 of 25 shooting, as the Tide were able to beat South Carolina 78-76 in overtime. Not only did he add 8 rebounds and 3 steals, he hit the game-tying shot in regulation to send it to overtime, and also hit the game winner in overtime. Crazy. So Nate Oates proceeded to go into the post-game press conference. One of the most mentally tough kids I've ever coached. When asked about how, like, Miller, like, handled everything, he said also with, like, how Miller took it. He said that basketball kind of becomes a safe haven a little bit for some of these guys. They get on the floor and they kind of lock in on what they've done their whole lives and get some of the outside stuff out of their mind. I guess this is a way. I mean, you don't like the whole situation if you're an NBA GM, but you also have to look at it as, like, the mental toughness here is incredible, right? I mean, this is insane. Like, the kid is involved in a murder investigation, goes out and just drops 40-something. Is there a lack of empathy there? Is that what we're talking about? Does he just not care, or is he just used to doing it? Is that what we're digging into? Maybe people are doing that. But there's also the other side of it, too, where it's like this guy has one thing in his life, and that's basketball. And he just puts all of his effort, all of his focus into that, and has been able to use it as an outlet to escape things his entire life, and proceeded to do it here, and absolutely went off and won the game in South Carolina. Is continuing to do his thing. They're probably, considering how the SEC tournament goes, they're probably going to be a 1 seed if they're, you know, 1 or 2 in the country. They'll probably be a 1 seed come the March Madness tournament, and Bama's certainly going to compete for the national championship. Now, they asked Oates as well, why was Miller allowed to play amongst all this, right? I mean, he hasn't been charged or anything, but obviously this is a bad look. He had a direct, the direct impact on Brandon Miller, like, had a direct impact on a murder. So, like, what's the deal here? So we deferred that to the Crimson Tide, Alabama Crimson Tide athletic director Greg Byrne. Byrne went on the ESPN College Game Day podcast and said conversations involving him, Oates, Alabama school president Stuart Bell, and the university's legal counsel led the administration to the decision to play Miller. He said that information was shared collectively, and collectively we decided that Brandon was able to play. Byrne told ESPN declining to talk specifically what went down. So overall, you look at Clay Travis, it's pretty much like, yeah, no, this is so Miller handed the gun to Davis, who eventually killed the person. He has been given capital murder charges. You hand somebody the gun, you may as well. Does that also implicate Miller as well, considering some of the text messages and stuff that I think have been put out there. People are trying to dig into it in the sense that he did know exactly what was going to happen. At the end of the day, like, it wasn't like it was Miller's firearm that he gave to him, so I really just don't think there's enough evidence here to implicate Miller. Is obviously, like, is he involved? Is his friend? Did he know? I don't think that's anything that anybody can prove, and that's the reality that Miller's going to get away with. I think if everything stays the way it is, I don't think it's going to affect his draft stock at all. I still think he's going to be the first collegiate player taken off the board. He's the best player in college basketball. And then another way I think you look at it, like I said, like I don't know what his comments specifically have been on it, but he's handled it very well in terms of, like, emotional, like, stress and pressure, and there's pressures all around. Like, the guy goes off and scores 41, so we'll see how the tournament goes. But yeah, super, super strange situation. It's actually not connected in the sense of where they're connected, but the same date, actually, same time that the next story we're getting into took place as well, too. So the Jalen Carter arrest, also, by the way, Alabama next up, Texas A&M. Well, it's going to be today, the day this releases at noontime. So a couple hours from when you guys are listening to this, unless you get into it after. So the next one's the Jalen Carter arrest, which is another super weird one. So he was arrested on 2 misdemeanors. Had to go back to Athens. He was implicated for racing in the crash that took the life of Devin Willick, his teammate, and then Chandler LaCroix was the recruiting staffer. So he was the official statement was, as a result of the ongoing investigation into the January 15, 2023 fatal crash that occurred in the 900 block of Barrett Shoals Road, the Athens-Clarke County Police Department has secured arrest warrants for Jalen Carter, 21 years old, for reckless driving and racing. The investigation found that Chandler LaCroix, the driver of a 2021 Ford Expedition, and Jalen Carter, driver of a 2021 Jeep Trackhawk, were operating their vehicles in a manner consistent with racing shortly after leaving the downtown Athens area at about 2:30 a.m. The evidence demonstrated that both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in the center turn lane, drove in opposite lanes of travel, overtook other motorists, and drove at high rates of speed in an apparent attempt to outdistance each other. Evidence indicated that shortly before the crash, the expedition was traveling about 104 miles per hour. The toxicology report indicated that LaCroix's blood alcohol concentration was 0.197 at the time of the crash. Double the legal limit. More than double the legal limit. Investigators determined that alcohol impairment, racing, reckless driving, and speed were significant contributing factors to the crash. The case will be given to the Solicitor General's office. So there were already some character concerns before, and I don't really think everybody really totally read into them, considering this guy was like almost a sure, if not number 1 lock, top 5 lock. Basically, they've said he teleports gaps, he covers gaps. He is an incredible interior defensive lineman, can get after the passer. He's the complete package as a 3 technique, not a true nose, but a 3 technique interior guy that in a 4-3 front is going to absolutely make some noise. But there were some character concerns, and then this comes out. Unfortunate enough for him that it comes out right during this draft combine time, but again, don't drink and drive, and don't race. I mean, like, everything would suspect that they were drinking and made poor decisions, and his friends met their unfortunate end in making that bad decision. So Jalen Carter proceeded to tweet out as well. He said, this morning, I received a phone call. This is the day that he received the news. This is March 1st. This morning, I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 misdemeanor warrants have been issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports also have circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of January 15, 2023. It is my intention to return to Athens, answer the misdemeanor charges against me, and to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There's no question in my mind that when all of the facts are known, that I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing. Now, to my knowledge, it was a $4,000 bond. He was there for all of 15 minutes. He took his pictures and was out of there. But to my understanding as well, and maybe I'm missing on this, he left his teammates behind. Not that I think there would have been much that he was able to do for them, but considering you're making the bad decision together, you're racing against them, and then you see their car go flying off the road. What was it? I forget where I saw where is the, I think that's in the other story. I think it's in the link right below. So yeah, it was authorities responding to a call of a single vehicle crash Barrett Shoals Road. Ford Expedition that had left the roadway plowed through 2 power poles and several trees, and it killed Georgia football player Devin Willock and football staffer Chandler LaCroix. Extreme rate of speed, twice the legal limit. And you don't go back for your teammate and the person that you're with at the, like, is that a real thing? Did he really not go back? To my understanding, like, obviously he wasn't at the scene. So where was he? Like, so you just abandoned them? So I mean, I understand you made a mistake, correct? Like, like you just think like, oh, you just try to imagine it didn't happen, but something has to be said there about leaving his friends behind. That's a terrible look on top of all the other stuff that also would look like drinking and driving, which they wouldn't be able to prove at that time now that they haven't measured his levels, and partaking in events that killed 2 people. He didn't kill them. He didn't, they made the decision to, as well, to drink and drive and then do things at high, and then allow that their impaired minds to make poor decisions. So that's still on them. And for Devin Willock for getting in the car, for people making impaired decisions. All of that is still on them, but obviously he still has some form of identification to it, and leaving them, even though they're already gone, would appear to be, I think, very, very bad too. Just a very terrible look. Incredibly talented guy, but this surely will affect his draft stock. I don't know if as much as Brandon Miller, because there's actually 2 misdemeanors that he's going to have to get through in this one, which I don't think he'll serve time for. Maybe, maybe not. There's obviously going to be something associated with those. Those are actual charges. Miller has no charges, so I don't know if it affects his draft stock all that much, considering he doesn't have actual charges. But the strange connection between Miller and Carter, I'm going to read you 2 stories again. At 2:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, January 15th, authorities in Athens, Georgia, responded to a call of a single vehicle crash. That's the Jalen Carter story, right? Devin Willock and Chandler LaCroix. That's when that happened. At 1:45 Central Time that same day, shots were fired in downtown Tuscaloosa in a gunfight near a busy entertainment district. The shootout ended with Jamia Janae Harris dead at the scene. A former Alabama basketball player, Darius Miles, is charged with capital murder after allegedly providing the gun for his friend and alleged triggerman Michael Davis. Same time. It happened at the same time. It's crazy to me that these 2 SEC schools, these powerhouses, different sports, really some of the pinnacles of the athletic world right now, are now under this scrutiny. And, Carter obviously involved, not directly, but, and did, have some form of involvement in the death of 2 people. And then Miller there's a form of him that's involved with the death of a person as well. It all comes down to what you can prove as well. Only what you can prove. I'm not going to throw false allegations out there. I'm not saying it's all their fault. Everybody makes impaired decisions and, ends up in bad situations from time to time. And you'd like to get breaks when you're making the right decisions all the time and you make one bad call. But when people start dying around you for poor decisions, that's when people, and you're in these positions where you're supposed to be role models, people, and you have to, live that clean life. It's a incredibly bad look for these college kids to be having to deal with stuff like this, and to be up. They're trying to get to that next level, and with these charges and things going on, it's just a very bad look for the NCAA, for these schools, and for these players. And we're going to see how it affects the draft stock, and how it affects them, moving forward. If it, obviously they're in certain situations where you're trying to make it out of bad decision making, but at the same time, they've probably grown up playing at such a high level that they might not have grown up in a world where they've been told they're doing wrong, or they might feel indestructible, and that is clearly not the case. If you make impaired and poor decisions, there are still repercussions to the decisions you make, and some of them run all the way to death. So, no drinking and driving, firearms. Just there's a lot more simple lessons to really take out of this, like just to stay away from. But you have to wonder what this means for these people and how it's going to affect them come draft time, because they're two incredibly talented individuals, and on the same night their lives can be totally changed from these separate events that went on at the same time. Speaking of more legal stuff, I mean, he hasn't been charged, but Morant allegedly beat up a teenager. So Memphis Grizzlies star Morant has been accused of punching and flashing a gun at a 17-year-old and threatening a mall security guard. In police records obtained by Molly Hensley Clancy of the Washington Post, Morant was accused of punching the teen 12 to 13 times during a pickup basketball game at Ja's house, Ja being 23 years old. According to interviews conducted by Shelby County Sheriff's Office detectives obtained by Hensley Clancy, the teenager said Morant went into his house after hitting him and re-emerged with a gun visible in the waistband of his pants and his hand on the weapon. A few days before the alleged assault, the head of security at the Memphis Mall told police that he was threatened by Morant in the parking lot, and a member of Morant's group shoved him in the head. Morant told police in an interview he swung first in the alleged fight with the teenager, but he was acting in self-defense because the teenager threw a basketball at his head and stepped toward him. In a statement to Hensley Clancy, Shelby County District Attorney's Office prosecutor said they declined to press charges against Morant after deciding there was not enough evidence to proceed with the case. TMZ Sports previously reported on January 3rd the teenager filed a lawsuit against Morant in September. Court documents showed the 17-year-old said he accidentally hit Morant in the face with a ball, leading to Morant asking bystander, "Should I do it to him?" before using a closed fist to knock him to the ground. Morant said, per the court documents, the teenager made verbal threats stating he'd light his house up, and he and his family were put in fear by the statement. According to the police report, the boy said Morant and his friend hit him hard enough to knock him to the ground, resulting in a large knot on the side of his head. The deputies also wrote in the report that they observed the boy's injuries per Hensley Clancy. So this is obviously following the story, which again I've talked about it before with him pointing the guns, right? So the Athletics' Bob Kravitz and Sam Amick reported last month. We talked about this in the show. The NBA investigated allegations made by the Pacers that acquaintances of Morant aggressively confronted members of the Pacers' traveling party following a January 29th game at FedEx Forum, that's the Memphis Grizzlies' home stadium. The Pacers' traveling party also said someone in the slow-moving SUV that Morant was in trained a red laser on them, and it was unclear if the laser was attached to a gun, although it was believed that it was attached to a gun. NBA spokesperson Mike Bass told Kravitz and Amick the league's investigation substantiated that a post-game situation arose that was confrontational, but it could not corroborate that any individual threatened others with a weapon. Morant tweeted after the report came out that one of his friends was banned from attending Grizzlies home games for 1 year. He wasn't suspended for the alleged incident following the NBA investigation. So this is one of the brightest young players in the game, and it just continues to get worse for him. Pointing guns at people, beating up 17-year-olds, threatening mall security guards. It's time to evaluate what is important to you. Is it your career? Is it your future? Is it your future in the NBA as one of the brightest stars and providing for your family? Or is it running around and doing everything else and getting into these spats and just trying to carry yourself as the dude? Because I'm telling you right now, being pissed off and just walking around trying to act tough, it isn't going to get you anything good. This is just creating problems for you, the way you're carrying yourself or who you're hanging around with. I'm not saying you got to stay out of the light here, but you got to avoid these type of headlines. You want to, get advertising deals. You want to be on the face of things. You can't be doing stuff like this. And at the end of the day, it's going to hurt your basketball career as well. Could hurt your basketball team because you were the star. You're 23 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. Please do not, Ja Morant, throw it away. Now, again, this could all be little things that other people started, or I just think where there's smoke, there's fire, and the more that we continue to build with this, more and more it looks like Ja's got a lot of off the court stuff that's going to continue to affect him long term throughout his career. And you're obviously going to think about like future contract stuff and where he's playing. Is he worth the risk? And is he going to do anything that is like legitimately going to affect his ability to play basketball games for you long term? Because right now it's not looking good if he's pointing guns at people and beating up 17-year-olds and threatening people, which he continues to do. This continues to be a bad look for him and the league for not suspending him. It allows me to segue into Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks also on the Memphis Grizzlies, who's averaging almost 14.5 points, steal, 2.5 assists, 3.3 rebounds, shooting about 32% from three, playing about 30 minutes a game, shooting just under 40% from the field. And he's their Pat Bev. He's their instigator. He's a glue guy, And he did a big interview for ESPN and asked him about the Warriors and Draymond Green. And he goes, "I don't like Draymond at all. I just don't like Golden State. I don't like anything to do with them. Draymond talks a lot, gets away with a lot too. His game is cool with Golden State, but if you put him anywhere else, you're not going to know who Draymond is. He plays with heart, plays hard, knows the ins and outs of their defense. I guess that's why they like him over there." It's such a strange dig for me because that's what Dillon Brooks does. Like, that's the confusing thing to me. Is like, you're literally hating on another player for doing what you do, and he's won championships doing it. You have no ground to stand on, Dillon Brooks. Who are you? You haven't won a championship. You don't have a ring. You're not a part of one of the best dynasties of NBA history. You haven't played alongside great players. You played alongside John Morant, who's beating up 17-year-olds and pointing guns at people. Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, those are your guys. He's playing with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. He's playing with Kevin Durant. He's playing with greats. He's helped elevate their games. Listen, he's not what he once was, Draymond Green, and he never was the greatest before that. But he clearly has a role as a glue guy there, and as a defender, he does what you do. Like, you should look at him, and you should. I know you can't come out and say it. You don't like him. That's who you should want to be. It's incredible to me. Like, you're not shooting well this year. You play your defense and you play your instigator role, but that's what Draymond is to Golden State. So it's such a strange thing for me to hear this guy complaining about Draymond and saying he doesn't like Draymond, when the reality is that he's just Memphis's Draymond and he's not as good at it. Like, what are we talking about? So yeah, Dillon Brooks, like, it just has no ground to stand on to be saying stuff like this. I mean, his last 10, he's averaging less than 10 points per game. Maybe shooting a little better from three, playing a little less minutes. But, like, and the Grizzlies still up there in the West. But, like, what are we talking about? Like, seriously. He's getting all over Draymond for the reasons, like, and hating Draymond for the things that that's why he's with Memphis. That's what his role is with Memphis. So what are we talking about? It's gotta be. It's just pure jealousy. This is some middle school stuff. They talk about how young the Grizzlies are, and it clearly shows the way they're acting up and the way they're all acting. John Morant's father getting in beef in the stand. John Morant, all these guys talking about Shannon Sharp, this, that, the third. Clearly, there's some maturity issues in this team. This guy got a little bit of jealousy going on because he thinks he's better than the other team's glue guy that's been a part of multiple championship rosters who clearly has respect. He's not what he once was, and he might not have ever been great, but man, he's done some great things for Golden State. So don't want to say to the guy that you should be trying to be a lot more like, not the exact player he was, but play that same similar type role. It's just strange to me. It's just strange to me. I guess it's just part of him playing the instigator and trying to get people's heads. I'm pretty sure Draymond went off on his podcast too on him. I don't have the clip there, but I'm pretty sure he went absolutely berserk. So I'll have to do more research and see if we got to talk about the next episode. But we're going to finish it off, I guess, with some positive news, because I'm normally so negative when it comes to the game of baseball, as we're just about to eclipse the half hour's time mark. Maybe get this to about 40. Oh, not going to be too long with it. But anyway, spring training game times are down. They've obviously put some of the rule changes in with the pitch clock, and we've seen the shifts now. They're moving outfielders instead of infielders. But we'll go through that. So this article from CBS, freshly behind us, is the first weekend of Cactus and Grapefruit League spring training games. And the first look at the new rules in play for the 2023 Major League Baseball season. And it didn't take long for the new rules to make legitimate differences. So, obviously, for anybody who's unaware, I'm going to go through a couple of rules. So, a pitch clock is now in place. Pitchers must begin their deliveries within 15 seconds when the bases are empty and within 20 seconds when the bases are occupied. The batter must be in the box and alert to the pitcher with at least 8 seconds remaining on said pitch clock. Pitchers who violate will be charged the ball, and batters who run afoul will be docked a strike. Pitchers are allowed to disengage from the rubber, step off, just twice during each plate appearance, whether to step off or to make a pickoff throw. That tally resets if one or more runners advance during the plate appearance in question. Pitchers may take a third pickoff attempt during a plate appearance, but the runner will advance automatically if he's not picked off on that third attempt. In addition to those pickoff throw limitations, base runners are also benefiting from larger bases. The first, second, and third base bags are now 18 square inches instead of 15, and makes a bigger target for a base runner and also shortens the distance between the stations. The distance between home and first and third and home is now reduced by 3 inches. The distance between first and second and third is now 4.5 inches shorter. And that can make a huge difference. Think of how many bang-bang plays there are each year we see with instant replay. Even the Dave Roberts, with the Red Sox steal in 2004, if he had these bases, he'd have been in second standing up. Jorge Posada had the quickest pop time ever, and Dave Roberts in there, bang, he would have been in there standing. Ricky Henderson, look out, they're coming for you. Infield overshifts are no more. Team must have 4 infielders within the infield boundary whenever the pitcher's on the rubber, with 2 fielders stationed on either side of the second base bag at the time of the pitch. Teams are still allowed to bring an outfielder in, either onto the infield or into the shallow outfield. They are not, however, permitted to use 4 outfielders when it comes to those positioning rules noted in the final bullet point above. Too soon to draw any conclusions about what impact that'll have. The Red Sox already brought, I think, the right fielder down to play like that short right, and then left field wide open. I want to say it was Joey Gallo. But if he does smash it on the left field line, it's going to be a triple. So I think there's a little more to pay for here now, that you have to use outfielders instead. But clearly it doesn't matter. Clearly they're going to try. There's going to be some gamesmanship to work around. But again, it's going to be a long time before I think you truthfully see the results. I mean, you look at the game times, right, that have gone down. But I think you're going to have to. There's going to be more strategy and stuff developed over time with all these new rules. So only time will tell. So as Baseball America notes, spring training games are thus far down significantly. In 2022 and 2021, spring training game times were respectively in excess of the right and right at 3 hours. Thus far, in 2023, spring games are averaging 2 hours, 39 minutes. So it's a reduction of more than 20 minutes of game time from 2022 and 2021. One prominent example, the Royals and Mariners met for a combined 15 runs and 25 hits, but still managed to wrap up the contest in 2 hours and 25 minutes. So, you get a 15-run game, you get a little 8-7 game, 25 hits, some offense, the bases are bigger, people are stealing bags, pitchers are taking too long, but it doesn't matter because they're walking guys and not even throwing pitches because they're taking too long to get set. Hitters are in the box ready to hit, and they're raking. Because pitchers can't game plan that much. Get your sign and go, man. Hope you did your homework. So the real target, though, of course, is the regular season. And last year, regular season games clocked in at 3 hours, 3 minutes on average. And they've all been at or in excess of 3 hour mark since 2011. If the MLB manages to maintain carryover, maintain like the carryover of that 2 hours and 39-minute run time into the regular season, that would be the lowest such regular season figure since 1984. So you got to think of like the severity of like 94, 04, 14. You're looking at almost 40 years. We haven't seen a games run this short of time in 40 years, which is impressive. I don't know what that means for advertisers and the ads they run and what that's going to be money-wise, but clearly want to shorten the games for the viewers. And these changes have quickly worked. So we'll see how the regular season works that, but obviously it should. If it's doing it in spring training, it should do it here. Also, teams are averaging 1.08 steal attempts per game so far. That's nearly a 40% increase from 0.77 attempts per game in spring training last year. The success rate is also up. Last year in spring training, teams succeeded on 73% of attempts. It's up 5% to 78%. So we're stealing more, and I think that might be part of spring training too, but it's also compared in terms of to other spring training statistics. Success, so they're attempting 40% more, and they're succeeding 5% more of the time. Maybe not the worthy risk there, but I'm not sure how the numbers are going to pan out there. But I'm glad people are experimenting, people are trying. So if you look at the pitch timer violations as well too. So I believe this is from last Sunday. There were 16 games, 35 clock violations in total of those 16 games last Sunday. 27 of those violations were by pitchers, 8 by hitters. One of them by a hitter was when he was, I believe, called for strike 3, and he was the last out of the game, and it was the Braves-Red Sox, and it ended in a spring training league tie, because obviously in spring training league on extras. It ended in a tie, because he just wasn't set in time. So clearly the rule having an effect. In terms of the whole spring, I believe this was from, again, last weekend. In the 35 spring training games, there's been 69 clock violations, 1.97 per game. I think in the minors last year when they had it is 1.73. So there's 2 violations per game. So people are obviously, there's the rules do affect people, and they are affecting the length of the games. Anything that makes baseball more fun to watch and makes me less miserable when it comes to thinking about baseball and how Major League Baseball is killing the game. Anything like that, I am all for. Also, just anything that would get the Red Sox to actually spend some money and not be the most expensive team in baseball. That would also be nice, too. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I had for everybody today. John Jones, Cyril Gahn. We're going to see who takes it there. Honestly, I'm going to look up the odds right now, because I want to know if we should be taking a sleeper pick on Cyril Gahn. It might be a worthy bet, because Jones didn't look all that great. He really didn't. I want to see what the odds are. Obviously, Jones is up to heavyweight in his first fight. So he's number 2 in the ESPN divisional rankings. Jones has not fought since 2020. Oh, man. I said I wasn't talking about this, but I do kind of want to talk about it. I wish I could watch Combat Spots more. Let's see. Odds. Jones is a minus 170. Favorite, Gone at 145. Honestly, I think it's hard to bet against John Jones, but it would not shock me to see Cyril Gahn come out here and snatch a win. The co-main event is the woman. What else we got here? Obviously, Jones has dealt with a lot of stuff outside of the ring. We have the disqualification. Jones really has never lost a fight. Heavyweight. No Ngannou, obviously, that would be the main goal for John Jones. I'm just excited to watch John Jones fight. He's one of the baddest men that have ever walked the planet. So we're gonna have to see, how he can, respond to all of the stuff that's gone on, having had a fight in so long. But watching the guy fight's crazy. It really is. He's a freak. He's an animal. I love watching these UFC fights. I wish I could afford all of them. I can't. This is one that I'm going to be tuned into, and I can't wait to see McGregor fight again as well too. He's been working into everything. He's going to fight Michael Chandler at the end of the Ultimate Fighter Championship. So 32-year-old Gane, 35-year-old John Jones, both 6'4", just big dudes. I think Jones weighed in at 248. This is going to be. I hope it's an absolute legendary fight. I hope it's just chaos. I just hope it just turns into utter chaos and there's blood everywhere and it's an all-time fight. I do, because Gane's a good striker. Jones can wrestle, but Jones can hit too. So we're gonna see exactly what pans out. I'm throw a sleeper bet on Cyril Gane. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, I'll be on vacation, so don't expect 2 uploads. I'm going to have to find a day that I'm on the vacation I'm going to work in. It might be Wednesday. It might be the Saturday. I forget when I'm leaving. But I'll figure it out. You'll get one while I'm on vacation with a different backdrop. I like being at the home studio, man. I love this backdrop in the home studio. Absolutely love it. Once again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It's your boy Rufus. Signing off.